Yeah, thanks, Inkin, for actually giving me this like opportunity to talk. I think it's great. Obviously, I just graduated and sort of like entering the job market as to what's going on, and it's the pandemic, and uh, we're clearly seeing like a lot of our like systems failing. Like inherently, there are like structural issues that we're not addressing even despite the pandemic. Uh, when most of the design jobs that are sort of available today seem to be focused heavily towards like doing UX design or sort of UX research, right? It's still heavily focused on making like sort of screens for technology uh, and those are the opportunities that I see most often when I'm like sort of like trying to figure out what I should do. But then obviously given the situation, it's sort of very clear to all of us to say that these our systems aren't sustainable. Like we can't continue living like this. So we need to sort of like make opportunities or try to figure out how we can sort of do better than what we've been doing. And it doesn't help if we sort of try to go back into the same fields that have caused this in the first place. Having said that, so I'm trying to sort of like giving myself some time to see how can actually design help, like what sort of avenues do exist for designers outside of like traditional design jobs, you know, mostly as a product designer or as a UX designer or UX researcher, right? How can we actually sort of help make, how can we really make the world better? So some opportunities that I'm like exploring is like, can we get into organizations that are sort of looking at policies of, you know, various aspects, or whether it is looking at uh, activism, right? Like how do you actually design for activism to make the world a better place? Or I'm also looking at things like community design. I think that is something that we've sort of moved away from for a long time. Uh, like we don't really have close knit communities anymore. Most of us lead our own individual lives. It's about our individual successes. But to sort of like bring that whole feeling of community, like knowing your neighbor, like, you know, maybe sharing a lunch or dinner or something like. I remember when I was a kid, like we used to do that a lot. I think this was like 20 years ago. I remember going to my neighbor's house for like dinner, you know, and like all kids there, like everybody would like celebrate. Or if it's a festival, then you're like going to people's houses. But very few of such events are like happening today. So like we've kind of lost that feeling of community. So I'm trying to see like where all can, like as a designer, I could potentially contribute to making the world a better place. Uh, but that is really hard because most of these positions don't exist. So then I'm trying to sort of explore how do you get these opportunities? Who do you talk to? Who are in the right places to sort of, you know, speak to and see if they're able to carve out a space for you to attempt this, right? Like we don't know if these things will be successful or unsuccessful. So try to see like how I can make myself, you know, you could say useful in the world, like, you know. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I see. Well, you're conscious that what happens right now is a global question, yeah. And
Mhm.
so how do you feel with that? I mean, you have done an international semester in Europe, and you connected actually with other students from all over the world. How does it feel for you? Will this impact anyhow your future plans?
I think, yeah, I mean, there are a few problems that we face that are globally endangering us as a species, right? Like something like climate change is something that affects all countries regardless. Some countries are just facing it today, some countries are going to face it tomorrow, but it is inevitable that all of us will face the wrath of it to some extent. And then you get to hear all of these stories of things that are happening in different countries. Like every country right now is faced with its own unique sets of challenges, right from their economic policies to like their politics and how they choose to govern and what is happening, right? And especially for me, like coming from India, I think uh, like you could say like India is in like a very dangerous place right now where we aren't really dealing with our issues and rather like we're trying to sweep them under the rug. And I think so from a global point of view, I think we need to sort of look at these issues globally, but I think the solutions still are at a local level. Like you still need to sort of put in that effort to uh, fix your communities. Like you, like obviously, like there are many changes that are required. I think it's how could you say this? I think I'm it's a very complicated thought because while we definitely need collaboration and working with people from different countries across and working on these issues globally, we still should not, like, we aren't looking for a global solution. There is no single global solution, right? So we need to look at what knowledge sort of we have, like, within ourselves, within our communities, and we actually use that knowledge to make our world a better place. I think if you ask most people in the place I live in, nobody's going to deny that we need trees. Like, and everyone fondly remembers this place when it had a lot of trees, a lot of like forest areas. Uh, but but then nobody does anything about it. You know, we still continue to chop down trees. We still continue to build new roads, build new infrastructure, build new. We just continue to keep building more and more. And maybe now is probably a good time for all of us to. And I was talking about this with another friend the other day, and we were thinking about how we all need to sort of take a step back and we need to slow down. Like, we've always been sort of looking at progress and trying to get better, do more, innovate, and we use these terms very in terms of making new things like technology, making, you know, advances and progressing the human race. But I think it's about time we kind of question those ideas and see, like, what does progress really mean? And to me personally, I think progress means, like, if we have a world where the air is actually breathable, you see trees, animals aren't going extinct, that is progress, right? It does not have to be progress from a, you know, let's build a brand new technology to like go to Mars. I mean, it is great that we're doing that when we're pushing boundaries there, but we also need to pay equal attention to what's happening on the other side, and we can't really treat these two things separately. So that's some of the ways I've been sort of thinking about like these things, but it's really, really complex. Obviously, there's no like single solution.
Yeah, absolutely, and I understand. I mean, nobody. It's just scary to face a global problem and say, you know, how can I contribute to a global problem? So I mean, what you're saying about being local is very interesting. It's probably also interesting to be as an international somewhere else and to be local there, bringing in your expertise from your country and to another place, and maybe, you know, that is also a way to actually internationalize the solutions for this global crisis, I believe.
Yeah, I definitely like to add something there as well. I think if you look at our history, like most of our history, including like what has happened like over the last like 200 years, let's say, like since like the birth of capitalism, so to speak, is we've always gone into places sort of destroying the inherent knowledge that exists, and we're trying to claim the superiority of a singular sort of source of knowledge, right? And I think that just that's a very shallow way of sort of looking at the world, because we all have very separate lives. We all have very unique experiences. We're all very, very different. And to sort of, and we need to, when you say we need to like, you know, situate, like share knowledge between cultures, I think that it becomes really important to sort of like not diminish anyone else's knowledge, but to sort of like build like in my head, it'd be great if like, you know, something from India became like really popular in France, and then something from France sort of like became really popular in India. Like it could be like very sustainable practices, like, you know, like how things are grown, how things, like what do people do, like what is your work culture like, or what does society there sort of look like, and how can those values sort of be in India, and what are Indian values, like how do we look at family, or how do we look at you know, our neighbors, or what are the different sorts of relations that exist, and to sort of share that knowledge and create like multiple perspectives of looking at the world. You don't have to choose one way, or there is no right way. We're all trying to figure it out as we speak, and we don't know what is left. Like I'm sure like nobody could have predicted like 2020 turning out the way it has. Like you know, I remember right from January to like now, I was having the best time in France at that point of time, and then like if you ask me what did happen like 6 months down, I'd probably at the most be able to tell you that I'd have graduated. But you know, a lot more has happened since then, and it's quite scary to see how quickly we're sort of changing and how quickly we're sort of adapting to this change. It's yeah, it's a scary time. It's a unique time to live, and I think the most important thing is that we live this. We don't. I think we shouldn't forget what we are as human beings. I think as human beings, we are curious, we are creative, we like to do things, and I don't think we should ever forget that. No matter how hard like times get, I think we always figure out a way. But at the same time, we should definitely look at how we can make things a lot better.